Alrighty, so another night of first round action in the 2024 MLS LD playoffs, at least for game number one, is in the books. And if you were looking for goals, yeah, tonight was hard to come by. There was only one goal that was scored in both of these games. And we also saw the first PK shootout of these playoffs in the first round, as this game actually went on for forever. I mean, there was like 16 minutes of stoppage time, and of course, it has to go to a PK shootout after that as well. And I also want to say that I'm glad these games were a little bit earlier. Have this game started at 7 or 7:30, I wouldn't have started my review until 10 o'clock, and that's not ideal when you have to go to work the next morning at 6:30 in the morning. But another big thing coming out of tonight is that there were definitely some controversial call that we'll talk about in both of these games. But one other thing is that home team are now 5 for 5 when it comes to game one in the first round of the playoffs. Now, last year, I don't remember if there was a team that actually won on the road, at least for game number one. I believe maybe one or two were able to do so. Well, that's once again shows you how in the days of MLS, home field advantage is a huge thing in the playoffs. And I'm a little bit nervous about my Minnesota United team, knowing that they have to go on the road to play against RSL, that they might join that list, and we could potentially have a situation where it could be 7 for 7 in terms of home team in the playoffs, knowing tomorrow's matchup. The game between Columbus and the Red Bulls, unless the Red Bulls does a complete that not that so metro moment, yeah, that's probably going to be a home win for Columbus, and it would be 6 for 6 for teams in the first round in game one. That is in this playoffs, and that of course is the home team. But let's begin with the first game, which is Cincinnati versus NYCFC, and I gotta say for Cincinnati, they'll be happy that they of course get the win in game number one, but obviously I know Pat Nolan will not be happy. The fact that they let NYCFC in this game for as much as possible, give them chances in terms of trying to come back late in this one and unable to get that second goal. Now, in the first half, Cincinnati had most of the possession early. There was a shot for a handball for Cincy not given, and really 15 minutes in, there was no shot for both of these teams. This was a very tight beginning, as you usually kind of see that happen in the playoffs. Usually in the playoffs, things get a little bit tight, at least in the beginning, kind of like a feeling out period. In the 20th minute, we actually saw the first shot of the game, and it saw Kubo puts it wide from long range before Acosta would hit it right to freeze, as Cincinnati started to not only put in the sustained pressure but also pushing for the opening goal. Yedlin would then puts one into the stands on an outstretched leg. The shots were now 5-1 for Cincinnati. 30 minutes in, Kubo would then hits it just high from close. As again, Cincinnati, they were knocking on the door, but the problem is the finishing was not there for them to get the opening goal. And in the 39th minute, on the other end, Pereira with one of the best chance for NYCFC early on, but he hits one onto the roof of the net. So NYCFC, despite being kind of outplayed in the beginning of the first half and really kind of outplay for the majority of this game. Almost got a goal and score a goal against the run of play, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Oriano would have a shot that was deflected and goes into the side netting, but then in the 51st minute, we saw the opening goal of this game as Yamil Assad would score from Acosta to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati, and you just kind of feel like that was coming. I mean, Cincinnati once again started to have the stronger side. They were putting more pressure. They're trying to get that opening goal, and they were finally rewarded with that goal here to give them a 1-0 lead. And then it could have been 2-0 up, and probably should be 2-0 up when Teenage Hadabi somehow missed an absolute sitter on the volley from 5 yards out. I get that Hadabi is not known to be a goal scorer. He's more known for his defensive prowess, but yeah, that is one that he would absolutely want to have back, and one that again, I thought that missed chance could come back to haunt them, even though Cincinnati, they looked dominant and they were looking to try to get a second goal. And they could have got a second goal in the 62nd minute if it wasn't for the post denying Oriano on the curler before on the other end, Salutano would deny Pereira from close range. So far, Andre Pereira is really the only the attacking in for NYCFC. Santi Rodriguez, Alonso Martinez, and that NYCFC attack pretty much were non-existent in this game. And even Maxi Morales, who played in this one, he had a really quiet game as well, as that NYCFC attack pretty much was shut down for majority of this game. Buka then puts it wide from long range before Freeze denying Oriano from close range, as since he was pressing hard to get this killer's second goal. Santos would then hits one right to Freeze, and then there was a huge shout for a penalty as Martinez thought that he was brought down by Awazim there. And, I think this was the right call. When you look back on the replay, it looked like Alonso Martinez already went down the ground to draw the penalty. Yes, there's a bit of a tango of legs, but when you're a player that already is going down on ground to draw the penalty, referee's never going to give that, especially in the playoffs. So yeah, no penalty was being called. They did had a little brief check, but they said no penalty. But I thought that was a warning shot sign for Cincinnati, knowing that they got to put this game to bed. Yes, they have been the more dominant team. Yes, NYCFC have had a lot of chances, but really it only takes one moment. It only takes one moment and one bad bounce or one bad turnover from Cincinnati, and NYCFC has a chance to tie the game up. And it feels like that moment also kind of sparked NYCFC too, because they started to finally get some chances and get some sustained pressure. Baccarat would puts it wide from long range before Rodriguez would blast it high from long range in the fourth minute of stoppage time. Again, NYCFC was get for the first time with some sustained pressure, and you kind of had a sense that didn't see wish that they should have put this game away and not make it a very nervy late game in this one. Though Giacchini did look to try to ice the game, but he puts this one wide there. But then in the 7 minute stoppage time, we actually saw a red card in this one. In fact, both of these games actually saw a red card, and in this one, it's Tavon Gray that, of course, was getting sent off. Apparently, he got sent off because he put his hands as he on Costa, trying to kind of fend him off. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have heard her reaction from both fan base. I am going to kind of lean toward the crowd that said that it is a bit soft because, again, I've seen that happen before. I wouldn't have called that a record, especially in a big game like this. Yes, he did kind of put his hands in pretty close to the face there, but I don't think there was no harm in 10 at least from why for look at it. I might maybe look at it a couple more times. I only got like one look at it, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see whether or not if the disciplinary committee might look at this and might resend it. Obviously, I know NYCFC would try and appeal that uh, uh, after this game, and we'll see whether or not if the disciplinary committee may accept this appeal, and Tavon Gray might be good for the next game. But yeah, obviously we had a sending off here. It didn't really matter in terms of the outcome of this game because in the end, Cincinnati with a big 1-0 win again. It wasn't convincing, especially with the way that the problem in terms of killing teams off. That's going to be something that Pat Nolan will definitely tell his team heading into game number two that they have to do, and pretty much for the rest of the playoffs. So you can't just keep your opponent in this game like that and missing chances like they did tonight. But in the playoffs, you take any win possible. It's all about moving on in the playoffs. And for Cincinnati, even though they're not moving on, they have a big advantage now heading to Citi Field in the next game against NYCFC on the road for game two of this best of three series. But the shots in this one, 22 shots for the six that NYCFC had, 2 shots on goal for the six that Cincinnati has, 7 shots off target for the three that's NYCFC had, no shots on blocked for the six that Cincinnati has, and possession wise, 52% possession compared to the 48% possession that NYCFC has in this one. And there's no doubt that NYCFC has to wake up in game number two because these last couple of games that they play. Even going back to decision day against Montreal, it's been pretty pathetic when it comes to how the effort it's been shown, and especially on the attacking end. And again, the role form has always been a problem this season for NYCFC, and we're seeing it once again where they just can't do do anything well on the road, and they're hoping that might turns out differently now that they get to play at home, sort of. I mean, I know City Field is not really the home of NYCFC, and to be fair, they don't really have a temporary home with the amount of stadium that they've been playing around the New York area. But at least it's a baseball stadium, and that it seems like they fit well when it comes to playing in a baseball stadium compared to playing an actual size soccer pitch. But that being said, moving on into the second game of the doubleheader, which is Seattle and the Houston Dynamo. So this was the game where it went on forever. Like this game, it had 12 minutes of stoppage time. Probably should have been a little bit more. I was kind of surprised that there was also a VAR check like during the middle of that 12 minute marathon stoppage time, and I thought they would have gone a little bit longer because it definitely took a while for them to do that VAR check, and we'll talk about in just a bit what that our check is all about. But one thing I will say about this match is that yeah, this is a matchup. I think there's really not much to separate between both of these teams. And just like the LAFC versus Vancouver, where I think that matchup has not much to separate, this one has not much to separate, mainly because this is going to be a very physical matchup. I mean, we saw it tonight where there was a lot of physicality that was being shown, and it just kind of feel like it was a match where, if you like physicality and you like a match that is very cagey or very tactically sounded, then this of course is the matchup to tune in. But if you don't, you like kind of exciting soccer and just kind of high octane kind of soccer, yeah, I would not recommend watching this game in game number two or for the rest of the series, because I think that this is gonna how it's gonna look, and we kind of saw how that physicality really boiled over in the middle of this game. Now, early on, I also want to say I feel like it was typical Seattle weather with the rain just kind of pouring down at Lumen Field. Of course, I tuned in this game a little bit late because I was still doing the review of the Sunday games that we saw yesterday, and I was able to tune in this game in around the 6 minute, and I actually saw well, the first shot of the game as Clark would deny Rodon from long range before Rothrock would put it wide on the header. Seattle was definitely on the front foot and they were looking to try to get the early lead. João Paulo tried to do so, but he puts one right to Clark as the shots were 4-0 for Seattle early on. Seattle was doing very good, at least on the attack creating chances, but as we'll see for the rest of the game, that kind of become a problem for the remaining part of the game, and that one of the biggest problem we have also seen with the Sounders in the playoffs, even going back to last year as well, is that they can be toothless at times when it comes to the attack, no matter how many chances that they put in the chances that they have to score the opening goal. So in the 24th minute, on tour with the first shot for the Dynamo, but he puts that one high as I thought Houston was starting to grow into this game, creating some of chances of their own. Though Christian Rodon would puts one into the stands from close range, and that was pretty much it for the first half. I mean, we go for a period where not much happened. It was a very tactical game. It was also very slow pace at times in this game as well. Not a lot of risk that is being taken, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Aliu would puts it wide from long range before Clark denied Morris in the front post. Both of these teams were exchanging possession, but again, it just still felt like it was very cagey and very physical at time as well between both of these teams. Manungu would then had a shot that was deflected and wide. And as I mentioned before, with the way that there was so much physicality that was shown, you knew eventually it was going to boil over, and it did in this moment around the 63rd minute as the tempers really start flaring. It all started when Karaskia looked like he kind of shoved Reagan there to the ground, and then after that, I mean, just all hell broke loose when it got to that moment. I mean, Coco Karaskia, he forgot that this is the MLS playoffs, and this is not the CONCACAF Champions Cup, or he's in a CONCACAF competition, because when you did what he did, where I think he kind of put doing that scuffle, he definitely put his hands to Rusnak there. Yeah, when you do that, that is going to be violent contact, and in the day of VAR, and especially with the way that this, of course, happened in MLS. I mean, I'm pretty sure he'll get away with this if this was a Concacaf competition, but no, this is not a Concacaf competition, and that rightfully so, he was giving his marching order after VAR deemed that Karaskia committed violent conduct with him basically putting hands to Rusnak during the middle of the scuffle. And yeah, the Dynamo, of course, were down to 10 men for the rest of the game, but it just kind of also feel like this was one of those kind of game where just because one team goes down to 10 men doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because this is when Seattle really started to try their best to go on the attack, and I say that kindly because this is when frustration started to boil over the Sounders, where they just simply cannot break down this Dynamo team that just instantly went on a low block. Kovacic had a chance to at least get the Dynamo the lead, but he missed wide from close before Leva would miss wide from long range. Again, the Sounders had all the possession, but can they break down a very stingy low block that the Dynamo was putting in? Who seems like they were playing for penalty, as I said before. The answer is definitely no. Rui Diaz would then blast one into the stands. That play kind of sums up the Sounders' attack, who's been toothless in front of goal. You can also see the frustration that was going on there. There was a couple of players that was very upset at times at not getting the ball, or at least playing the ball quickly. And I'm pretty sure Brian Schmetzer must be pulling his hair, seeing that the attack just had no creativity and no sense of urgency in terms of trying to move that Dynamo low block. We would then get 12 minutes of stoppage time up to this point. Again, just a reminder. Thank goodness this game started at 6 and not like at 7 or 7:30, or else I'll be doing the review right now at like in close to 10 o'clock. But in the 6 minute stoppage time, Rodon would had a shot that was deflected and goes wide, and then there was originally going to be a penalty for the Sounders after Mikel was deemed to handball into the box. Well, they did go to VAR to see whether or not if there was a handball by Mikel, and the answer is no, and it's the right call. And I didn't even had to wait until VAR finished in terms of what was the final decision of it. I knew it was not a handball. You can clearly see on the replay that that ball hits Mikel just rather than his hand. So yeah, no PK of course was given, and then a couple of minutes later, it ends it in a scoreless draw in the regulation, which means for the first time in this first round of the playoffs, we go to a PK shootout. And in the PK shootout, it was perfect through 4 rounds until in round number 4 we saw Sevchenko miss the penalty, and that also turns out to be the only missed penalty of this PK shootout. As in the end, Alex Rodon wins it for the Sounders in round number 5. They get the 1-0 advantage heading into game number 2, and thus once again we have seen a home team win. They're now 5 for 5, although this was probably the closest we have seen a road team actually getting a win in game 1 of the first round of the playoffs. And again, this just shows you how important it is when it comes to having home field advantage. We've seen it even in the past before, where winning on the road is a very tough ordeal in these MLS playoffs. The shots in this one, 20 shots for the 7 that the Dynamo has, but only 3 of them was on goal. And again, that just kind of sums up how the Sounders for most of the night was kind of toothless in front of goal. So was the Dynamo as well. They had no shot on goal for the entire game. 4 shots off target for the 8 that the Sounders had. 8 shots off the block for the 2 that Houston had. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to the 44% possession that the Houston Dynamo has in this game. And yeah, Seattle, of course, gets the edge heading into game number 2, but I would not be surprised if this might go into a 3 game series. This is one that it is very tight to call, and that I would also expect there's going to be more physicality that we're going to see in game number 2. Now, obviously for the Dynamo, losing Karaskia, that's a huge blow for them, and unlike the Tavon Gray one, I don't think there's any complaint about the Karaskia red card. That is clearly a red card, and that they just lose one of their biggest weapon in the midfield. At least in terms of the playmaking department as well. So yeah, we'll see how they'll recover. I still think that this is anybody's series, but do not be surprised heading into game number 2. It could be something like this where it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be not fun to watch if you don't like to watch tight and cagey kind of affair of soccer that we usually see in the playoffs. And again, I do think that this series has game free or a free game that goes the distance written all over it. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at tonight's match in terms of these two games in the first round of the playoffs, and that of course is game number 1. Tomorrow we have 2 more game number 1 in the first round of the playoffs. We got Columbus and the New York Red Bulls, and then finally I get to watch my team between Real Salt Lake versus Minnesota United. I mean, I'm kind of excited, but at the same time nervous as well, because I'm excited that finally I get to see my team play. It feels like it's been an eternity to wait until I see my team gets to play in the playoffs. But at the same time, I am a little nervous, mainly because again, so far the road team they can't solve the puzzle when it comes to winning game 1, and had a chance to bring back into the home turf and potentially win game number 2 to move on into the next round. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.